family tension reaches a breaking point, the fallout can leave lasting scars, and this time,
when family drama hits its breaking point, it leaves behind scars that are hard to heal. Love and hip-hop. Atlanta fans got a front-row seat to a meltdown that no one saw coming. What started as a family meeting turned into one of the most shocking moments in the show's history. Mendeecees, his wife Yandy, and his mom Judy came together to try to work out their problems. For years, Judy and Yandy had clashed. Judy thought Yandy was too controlling, while Yandy felt Judy didn't respect her. Their rocky relationship was no secret. At first, things seemed like they might stay calm, but the tension in the room was impossible to miss. As the conversation got heated, tempers flared, and then everything boiled over. Out of nowhere, Judy slapped Yandy. The room went completely silent. Yandy stepped back, stunned, while Mendeecees stood frozen, caught between his mom and his wife. It was one of those moments that felt so real, you almost forgot you were watching a TV show. But this wasn't just about one slap. This was years of frustration and hurt spilling out all at once. To understand what happened, you have to look at the bigger picture. Judy and Yandy's issues had been simmering for a long time, with both sides feeling wronged. That slap wasn't just about the argument that day. It was about everything that had been building up over the years. Now, the big question is whether they can ever move past this, or if the damage is already done. From the very beginning, the relationship between Yandy and Judy has been anything but smooth. Judy has never shied away from speaking her mind, which often put her at odds with Yandy over everything from family decisions to personal boundaries. For Judy, Yandy symbolized change, and not the kind she wanted. She often felt that Yandy was taking over her son's life and, by extension, her own place in it. What started as small disagreements quickly turned into bigger clashes. Judy frequently accused Yandy of being disrespectful, while Yandy felt Judy was overstepping and refusing to accept her role as Mendeecees' partner and the head of their household. Meanwhile, Mendeecees was stuck in the middle, torn between two of the most important women in his life. As a son, he wanted to honor his mother's feelings, but as a husband, his loyalty was to Yandy. Trying to balance these two roles left him emotionally drained, constantly playing the role of mediator. But no matter how hard he tried, both Judy and Yandy often felt unsupported, which only fueled their resentment. Over the years, the family made several attempts to mend fences, but those efforts always seemed to fall apart. Judy's strong-willed personality clashed with Yandy's refusal to back down, leaving tension as a constant presence in their interactions. It was only a matter of time before things boiled over, and that breaking point came during what was supposed to be a peaceful family gathering. At first, the meeting seemed like a chance to clear the air, but the atmosphere was anything but calm. The conversation started civilly, but it didn't take long for old wounds to resurface. Emotions ran high, voices were raised, and accusations flew. Judy accused Yandy of being controlling and disrespecting her role in the family. Yandy, feeling attacked, pushed back, questioning why Judy couldn't accept her. The argument spiraled, and then came the moment no one saw coming. Judy, overwhelmed by frustration, slapped Yandy. The room went silent as everyone tried to process what had just happened. It wasn't just a slap, it was the release of years of built-up anger and resentment. Yandy took a step back, trying to hold it together despite the humiliation, while Mendeecees stood frozen, caught in an impossible situation. It was a moment that shattered whatever fragile piece the family had left, leaving everyone wondering if they could ever recover from the damage. Mother who raised him had crossed a line, but confronting her meant risking their already fragile relationship. On the other hand, his wife had just been disrespected in their home, but it's been happening for a while. Sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that force you to choose between. In the face of growing tension, Mendeecees knew something had to change. He realized that the situation couldn't go on any longer, and it was time for him to step in. After calming Yandy down, he turned to Judy, his voice serious and full of emotion. "You crossed a line," he said, making it clear that the behavior could no longer continue. Judy tried to defend her actions, claiming she had been provoked and that Yandy had disrespected her first. But for Mendeecees, this wasn't about taking sides. It was about setting clear boundaries. "I love you, Mom," he said softly, "but I can't let this continue in my home." It wasn't an easy decision, but Mendeecees understood that protecting his family meant making tough choices, even when it involved his own mother. In that moment, he turned to Judy, his voice steady but filled with sorrow, and asked her to leave. The weight of those words hung in the air, the tension thick. Judy, stunned and hurt, stormed out, her anger evident as she vowed not to forget how she had been treated. Her departure was dramatic, but the sting of her words lingered in the room long after she was gone. Mendeecees sat there, his head bowed, the emotional toll visible on his face. This wasn't just about drawing a line. It was about accepting the painful truth that sometimes even the closest family bonds require tough love. The confrontation was over, but it didn't mean the wounds had healed. In fact, it was only the start of the healing process, or perhaps the beginning of deeper divides. The slap that had set everything off between Yandy and Judy might have been the breaking point, but it wasn't the end of the story. The aftermath left a scar on the Harris household that would take time to heal. For Yandy, this wasn't just a moment of disrespect. It was the result of years of feeling undermined in her own home. The emotional weight was heavy, and while the fight might have ended, the road to healing was far from over. Later that evening, Yandy found comfort in the company of her closest friends. As they gathered over coffee, she let her emotions spill out, a mixture of anger, exhaustion, and sorrow in every word. "I've always tried to make things work. For Mendeecees, for the kids, for this family," she said, her voice trembling with frustration. "But how many times do I have to be the bigger person while she walks all over me?" Her friends listened quietly, offering comforting words and nods of understanding, but the hurt in Yandy's voice was impossible to miss. Yandy's pain wasn't just about the slap or the confrontation that followed. It ran much deeper. For her, this moment was the result of years of feeling like an outsider in her own home. "It's not just this one time," she said, clutching her coffee cup tightly. "She's never respected my role as Mendeecees' wife, as the mother of his children, as the one who's here every day, keeping everything together." Although she appreciated that Mendeecees had finally stepped in to defend her, there was a bittersweetness to it. On one hand, she was relieved to finally have her husband's support in such a concrete way. But on the other hand, she couldn't help but wonder why it had taken so long. "I'm glad he finally said something," she sighed. "But why did it have to come to this? Why did it take everything reaching a breaking point for him to act?" Meanwhile, Mendeecees was wrestling with his own emotions. Asking his mother to leave had been one of the hardest things he'd ever done. While he knew it was the right choice for his family, that didn't make it any easier to bear. Guilt weighed heavily on him, leaving him second-guessing his decision. In a quiet moment with a close friend, he finally opened up. "I know I had to do it," he confessed, his voice low and filled with emotion. "Yandy deserves to feel respected and supported in her own home. But that's my mom. It doesn't matter how right it was, it still hurts." His friend gave him a comforting pat on the shoulder, offering the support Mendeecees needed in that moment. "You did what you had to do for your family," the friend reassured him. "It's not about picking sides. It's about making sure your home is at peace." But Mendeecees couldn't shake the guilt. He replayed that moment over and over in his mind, wondering if there was another way to handle it, another way to set boundaries without causing so much pain. He worried about the long-term effects of his decision, not just on his relationship with his mother, but on the family as a whole. Would this be the moment that tore them apart? Or would it push them toward growth and healing? As the days turned into weeks, the tension in the Harris household didn't go away. It just shifted. Yandy did her best to move forward, focusing on her kids and her responsibilities, but the emotional weight of the incident was still there. She felt like she was tiptoeing around everything, unsure how to handle what had happened. While she was glad Judy was no longer living in the house, the conflict had drained her. She struggled with feelings of resentment, not only toward Judy, but also toward Mendeecees. "I know he's trying," she said one evening to a close friend, "but part of me can't help but feel like he let it get this bad in the first place." For Mendeecees, The guilt remained heavy on his shoulders. He tried reaching out to Judy multiple times, hoping to fix things between them, but their conversations were tense, filled with unresolved emotions. Judy was hurt, defensive, and unwilling to acknowledge her role in the conflict. "I was only trying to help," she argued during one call. "I don't know why everyone's acting like I'm the bad guy." Mendeecees tried explaining his side, telling her it wasn't about blaming her, but about creating a peaceful space where everyone could coexist. But Judy wasn't ready to listen. The conversation ended with both sides feeling hurt and frustrated. Yandy, too, struggled with finding closure. Even though she felt relief with Judy out of the house, she couldn't shake the feeling of unease. The slap and everything that followed had stirred up years of pent-up emotions and frustrations, and it made her question not only her relationship with Judy, but also her marriage. "I love Mendeecees," she admitted to her friends, "but this whole situation has made me realize how much I've been holding in. I've been trying to keep the peace, biting my tongue, and it's taken a toll on me." Andy's internal struggle echoed in the silence that hung between him and Yandy. As the weight of his mother's actions clashed with the loyalty he had for his wife, he found himself at a crossroads. "That's my mom," he said quietly one evening as they sat together in the dim light of their living room. "She's been there for me through everything. I know she just wants what's best. But Yandy's my wife, too. How can I let her feel unsafe or disrespected in her own home?" His voice cracked, the pain of the choice evident in every word. Yandy looked at him, her eyes searching his face for answers, her own heart heavy with the mix of emotions she had been carrying for so long. She knew the importance of family to Andy, but she also knew that her own boundaries and needs were equally vital. "I just need you to stand by me," she whispered, her voice trembling with the raw emotion of everything they had endured. "I need to know that you'll choose me, choose us, no matter what." Andy's eyes softened as he reached for her hand, the weight of the decision slowly starting to lift. He had always been caught between two worlds, wanting to keep his mother close while protecting the woman he loved and their children. But tonight, he made a choice. "I'm leaving it all right here," he said, his voice firm but filled with tenderness. "I'm choosing us. I can't let anyone make you feel the way you felt. Not in our home. Not anymore." The decision to place his family first wasn't one he had taken lightly, and it wouldn't be without its consequences. But for the first time in weeks, Andy felt a sense of clarity. No matter how difficult the path ahead would be, Yandy and their children were his priority. And if that meant confronting the tension with his mother, so be it. Together, they began to rebuild, one conversation at a time, one decision at a time. And while the future remained uncertain, Andy knew one thing for sure. For the sake of their love and their family, he would do whatever it took to keep his home a place of peace and respect.